Today I'm going to show you glow effect and color lookup table and lots of other technique in Photoshop to turn this image to this. If you are new here, hello, my name is Shamim and I would like to do fun stuff in Photoshop. That's why today I'm going to turn this kudu antelope photo to a next level glowing fantasy image. Subscribe if you like my content, and most important thing, smash that bell icon for the future uploads. For today's video I downloaded a few images, so let's not waste time here. Let's get started. I have added all the image download URL in the description below. First thing first, let's mask out our key subject kudu antelope for today's fantasy project. Let's change the background layer lock settings. Just simply double click on the background layer and hit OK. For masking, go to select menu bar and click select and mask option. And at the properties tab, from view mode, select view as overlay. And from the toolbar, select selection tool and select the subject. Next, we are going to select Refine Edge tool to refine the mask selection area. I have added all the image download URL in the description below. What we are going to do now, for global refinement settings, we will set the contrast level to 10%. For the output settings, select output to new layer with layer mask and just hit OK. Now that we have new layer with the layer mask, let's save it. Next up, let's open background image. To open image, simply click File and Open and select the file and click Open. Let's zoom in and mask out the tree from the background image by using the pen tool. This is going to take way too long, but I don't care at all. Once we are done, go to Path tab and select the work path. To save the work path, just rename the work path and hit OK. Once we select the work path, just click on the Load Path as Selection option. Select the layer from the Layer tab and duplicate the layer. What we are going to do now, we will use the pen tool again and remove the unwanted area from the layer 1. Next up, we have this beautiful star nova image that we are going to copy and paste it in this Namibian desert image document. Make sure you set the star nova image between the layer 0 and layer 1. Select the star nova image and change the opacity to 46%. What we are going to do now, we will rotate and scale the Nova image and adjust it with the background sky area. Now we are going to change the Star Nova layer blending mode to screen. Next, we are going to select Gradient tool and select White to Transparent option. Let's add a vector mask and inverse the layer mask. Now we are going to use the Gradient tool and draw a line halfway to fill the mask layer and make sure Star Nova blends with the sky as we wanted to do so. Select Star Nova and Namibian Desert layer and create a layer group. What we are going to do now, we will add an adjustment layer and select color lookup table. Let's select the adjustment layer and drag it to the top of the group 1 and clip it for the group 1 layers. Next up, we are going to create a new layer and copy Kudu Envelope Image Mask layer and paste it in this Namibian Desert image document. Now let's transform the envelope image layer. Simply edit and free transform, or from your keyboard just hit Command T. Let's scale it down and adjust the subject placement based on the background perspective. Once we are done with the subject placement, let's zoom in and create a new work path to select the envelope horn for the glowing effect. Now that we are done with the work path, just go to Path tab and select the work path. Next, select the work path and click on the Load Path as selection option. Select the layer from the Layer tab and duplicate the subject selection area by just hitting Command J from the keyboard. Also, let's duplicate the subject layer and turn off the layer visibility. Next up, we will add an adjustment layer and select color lookup table. At the LUT Properties tab, load 3D LUT file as Moonlight. Let's create another adjustment layer and select Levels. And add one more adjustment layer and select Black and White. We are not done with the adjustment layer. Let's add one more adjustment layer and select Curves. What we are going to do now, we will darken the overall perspective of the image document by just bringing down the RGB curve level. Now we are going to turn off all these adjustment layers visibilities. Next up, we will create a duplicate background layer and convert it as Smart Object. Add a tilt shift filter to create a depth of field. And set the tilt shift blur to 8% and hit OK. Now let's turn back on color lookup, levels, and curve adjustment layer visibilities. Also Kudu Envelope horn layer visibility. Next up, we are going to convert layer 4 as a Smart Object and duplicate the layer. And for the Kudu Envelope horn Smart Object, we are going to add a Gaussian blur filter and set the radius to 4 pixels and hit OK. What we are going to do now, we will change the layer blending mode to Linear Dodge Add. Now select the layer and duplicate the layer and double click on the Gaussian blur filter to change the blur value. We will set it to 100 pixel. Let's duplicate the layer again and set the blur level to 250 pixel. What we're going to do now, we will select all the 4 layers and create a new group layer. The tree shadow doesn't look right, so now we are going to remove the front image tree shadow by just using clone stem tool. Let's duplicate and convert the background as smart object again and add tilt shift filter. Next, we will select the star nova layer again and set the opacity to 100%. Let's create some veins for the kudu antelope ear. What we are going to do now, we will copy jellyfish certain portion and bring it to the Photoshop Glow tutorial document. Now, let's change the jellyfish layer blend to screen. Next, we are going to adjust this layer with the kudu antelope ear by using free transform and wrap option. Next up, we will add a vector mask and inverse it. And using brush tool, we will paint the area we like to blend it with the subject. Next, we are going to create another new layer on top of the group 2. Let's turn back on color lookup, levels and curve adjustment layer visibilities along with the kudu antelope horn group. Next up, let's copy Stardust image and bring it to glowing tutorial document. Now let's adjust the image position and change the blend mode to screen. Let's add a vector mask and start painting around the antelope horn area by using brush tool. Make sure you select the soft brush and set the brush softness, opacity and follow option as needed. Next up, we are going to duplicate the tree layer and drag it to the top. Now, let's duplicate the tree layer again and convert it as smart object. Next, we will add Gaussian blur and set the radius to 5 pixels. What we are going to do now, for this layer, we will change the layer blend mode to linear dodge add. Next, we will duplicate the smart object layer again and change the Gaussian blur to 100 pixels. Now let's select all 3 layers and create a group and add a vector mask. Let's invert the mask layer, set the brush size, opacity and follow option as needed. And start painting with the brush tool. Make sure brush selected to soft brush option. Once we are done, now change the layer opacity level as needed. Next up, let's create a new layer and use the gradient tool and select black to transparent gradient option. And drag lines from top to bottom as needed for the gradient effect. Next, we are going to add another adjustment layer and select curves to create a shadow for the tree. At the Curve Properties tab, bring down the RGB curve level to darken the image background. Let's inverse the curve layer mask and start painting with the brush tool to create a shadow for the tree. Now let's work on the tree highlights. What we're going to do now, hold the Command key and left click on the tree layer and create a new layer and color fill with the selection area with the yellow color. Next, change the layer blend mode to linear dodge add. Then add a vector mask and start painting the tree highlights. Next up, let's add another curve adjustment layer and clip it with the tree highlights layer. This time, we're going to bump up the curve as needed. Now we are going to also change the curve layer opacity to 49%. Let's create another new layer and select the soft brush tool again and change the brush size to 2840 pixel. We're going to create a floor light, so let's change brush color to yellow and create a soft circle, and while doing that, make sure opacity and follow set to 100%. Once we are done with the soft yellow circle, for the floor light, let's adjust the position. Let's change the layer blend mode to color dodge. We are going to also change the tree highlights layer blending mode to color dodge. Next step, Command T to transform and right click and select distort. Now let's adjust the ground light. Once we are done with the floor light adjustment, hit return button to commit the transformation. What we are going to do now, we will drag the floor light layer under the Kudu envelope subject layer. Now we are going to turn on visibility for envelope image layer. Next up, we are going to duplicate curves, level and color lookup adjustment layer and drag all these three layers on top of the envelope image. Now let's clip all this adjustment layer for envelope layer. Next, we are going to adjust the ground light by moving it slightly down with the Move tool. Now let's select the black gradient layer and add a vector mask. Next, we are going to inverse the mask and change the brush size to 2840 pixel and select the soft round brush if it is not selected and start painting the mask with white color to darken the ground. Next, left click on the jellyfish screen layer and drag it to the top of the envelope image layer. What we are going to do now, we will select the envelope image along with the adjustment layer and jellyfish screen layer and create a new group. Now we are going to create another adjustment layer and select curves. What we are going to do now, we will bring the RGB curve level down and clip it with the group 4 and add a vector mask for the group. Let's select brush tool and select black color and start painting the mask to create highlights on the envelope. Next up, we're going to create another adjustment layer and select solid color. We'll select yellow color if it is not yellow and the color hash code is on the screen. Next, we will drag the solid color layer on top of the group 2 layer. Now we will duplicate envelope image layer and drag it under the solid yellow color. Now let's select envelope image layer and add a vector mask and inverse it. Next, select the yellow color fill layer and clip it as mask. What we are going to do now, we will select the envelope image mask layer and start painting the envelope highlights. As we created envelope ear veins with the jellyfish, to highlight veins, we are going to change the layer order one more time. Let's drag it on top of the envelope image layer and clip it with the subject image layer. Also, let's change blending mode to multiply one more time. Next up, let's select the envelope mask and add few more highlights. Create another adjustment layer and select color lookup option. At the LUT Properties tab, load 3D LUT file as late sunset. Finally, let's add one more final adjustment layer and select curves. And at the Curve Properties tab, let's bump up the RGB curve level. Now, select the color lookup adjustment layer and set the opacity to 52%. I think it's too bright. Let's change the adjustment curve settings level one more time. Guys, look at this amazing fantasy glowing image we created in Photoshop from a simple kudu envelope photo and few more stock images. Hopefully you liked it and helped you to take your skills to the next level. Thank you for watching my Photoshop tutorial, and please consider to subscribe my channel if you like the content, and the most important thing, smash that bell icon for the future uploads and also hit the like button. My name is Shamim and I will see you guys in the next video. Till then, bye bye.